Hello, everybody. I hope you are having a wonderful day. If you're new here, my name is Tef, and today we are talking about the Erin Condren Academic Planner versus their horizontal life planner. This is just an idea I had as I was trying to think of ideas for streams, because honestly I'm kind of running out of ideas. So if anybody has any ideas or suggestions for streams, please let me know. But it occurred to me that while the academic planner is focused specifically to students, and I'm a student, I'm not a student is what I meant to say, there are some features in it that I really like and I think would work really well for me and my ADHD brain. Not sure if the ADHD thing will come into play too much. Well, I mean, it won't for everybody, obviously. But anyway, because they do have similar layouts in some aspects, I thought it would be fun to go ahead and compare the two side by side. Very, very exciting. By the way, if you are here live, please sound off in the chat so I can give you a shout out. So far I see Sharon, hello. I have Coco here on the desk, and as soon as I switch to the top-down camera, we may be able to see her. If you don't know me, my name is Tef. I am a planner addict, sticker designer, and crazy cat lover to Coco, crazy cat lover and cat mama to Coco and Opal. So yeah, all the things. I had foster kittens and I just returned them 2 days ago. It's both happy and sad at the same time. I also was going to say that I sorted out the chat issues that we were dealing with on Monday's stream, but I booted everything up to hopefully make it work well, and now it's not working because I can see that there's stuff going on in the chat that is not showing up on screen. This side. Woo. There we go. This side. So if you are watching the replay, I'm going to spend about, well, if you're here live, I'm going to spend about 30 seconds to a minute trying to fix it. And if I can't, then I apologize. This is, I do like to embed the chat into my streams because for some weird reason, YouTube does not always like to show the chat replay correctly. And so this is theoretically my way of not having to deal with that. But as I've said right now, it does not seem to be working. So yeah. Oh, by the way, I also see Yvonne, I see Lisa, and I see Sarah in the chat. Hello, thank you for being here live. Sarah, you say you're a horizontal goal. Haven't broken into it yet though. Planner paralysis. Oh my God, yes. And then have you ever had one of those weeks where you don't really use it for Monday, Tuesday, sometimes into Wednesday, and you're like, well, now I don't want to plan the week because I want to save my stickers, if you're a sticker planner, for the next week. I don't want to quote unquote waste them if I'm not using it half the week. Maybe that's just a me thing. But now I'm really annoyed that this thing is not working. Really, really annoyed. Because I went and troubleshooted it and everything. That's okay. Let me go ahead and do the screen down view real fast. Maybe it will be working there. Maybe? I don't know. It's so annoying because, as I said, I tested it earlier and it worked perfectly fine. And now it's not. And I'm just like, what the hell? Why are you doing this to me? You were fine earlier. Oh my God. I'm trying to re-enter the file that makes it show up because I have to go through a third party to have it work. This is so weird. It's working in my little test thing on my computer, but it's not. I can see the thing from the tests earlier, I guess is what I'm trying to say, which is very frustrating. Maybe I have to exit and go back in. I will spend 1 more minute trying to fix this. Oh, Lisa's saying that you're in your vehicle, but you prefer daily duos. Ooh, so this is going to be a really interesting combo, probably, at least to some extent, about what kind of planners everybody likes. While I am sorting this out, again, Sorry, I thought I like literally did a mini testing stream a couple hours ago. I looked like a mess. It's private now, so you can't see it. But if you managed to see me, like my hair was all crunchy and weird and yeah. Anyway, it was literally working. This is so infuriating. Sorry. I literally got it working. I don't even know what's going on. Oh my goodness. I am like so annoyed. I know, like I try to be like all positive and like, hey, I hope everything's going well. And now I'm just like, ugh. Why is this not working? Okay. So infuriating. I need to like stop focusing on this, but it is very, very frustrating. See, I told you we'd have a kitty. So basically, 𝗓𝗏𝘕elements, which is the program I've used to show the chat up until now, that has worked perfectly fine, basically doesn't like me. So I think we're just gonna have to live with this. Maybe it doesn't like YouTube, but I was streaming literally when I did my test. So that shouldn't have been it. Sorry about that. I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, I'm gonna try one more thing, and if it doesn't work, oh, that's what I meant it to be on. I'll give you an explanation of why I pulled that. That was a screen share. I pulled up the horizontal layout there. Okay. All right, yeah, I think the chat's just not going to work. And of course, while I'm troubleshooting the chat, I can't really see the chat. So, yeah. Hello. Okay, so again, I'm sorry. I will attempt to get it working. I really hope I can get it working soon. This is, as I said, this is just infuriating. That I like try to troubleshoot it and it worked fine. Now I'm even forgetting what I did, which is, oh, one more thing I can try. Nope. Oh, this is gonna bug me so much. Well, hopefully you can at least enjoy the kitty cuteness in the meantime. Okay, let me try. Okay, sorry. I know I said I would stop troubleshooting this, but as I said, this is driving me absolutely nuts. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to tell it, in theory, to do what it would do if someone subscribes. Now, I think the actual link to YouTube is broken. So I don't think it actually does this if someone subscribes live. But this is in theory, what it's supposed to do, and maybe that will jumpstart the chat working. Yay, that's what it's supposed to do. Let's see. What did I do last time? This is, oh my God. I should have written it down. All right, well, apparently it's going to be a but, and it's going to hate me. Okay, actually, I keep saying like one more thing. Okay, that's the screen share. I have two different versions of it. And so I just wanted to double check. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to try setting it up again. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. Okay, whatever the issue it is, 𝗬𝗏𝘗, which is the program I use to do this, and I don't even know what the hell is going on and why it hates me. Okay. Steph, you need to stop. You need to stop worrying about this because this is not what the stream's supposed to be about. Okay. Okay. I'm going to stop worrying about this. We're going to actually focus on what the stream is about. So, the horizontal planner versus the academic planner. So I have a few planners here that we're just going to kind of go through it live. So this is the academic planner. Erin Condren did send this to me as a PR copy, though they don't know I'm doing this actual video. I also have my vertical planner here, which I know is a little bit of a weird thing to bring on an actual stream where I'm comparing horizontal and the academic planner. But the reason why I did this is because I do not have a current copy of the horizontal planner, and the weekly pages is primarily what's different between the horizontal and the vertical. So for all the pages except that weekly page, I'll be showing you in my vertical planner. Now I do have, sorry, this is my old Franken planner binder. As you can see very obviously, this is 2020, but this is the horizontal layout from 2020. But the reason why I bring that up is because, and I'm going to do a screen share here, this is a screenshot taken literally within 2 hours of right now from the Erin Condren website of the 2022-2023 LifePlanner horizontal version. And so there are very overall few differences. So you have the header, which is a little bit smaller. There's no asterisk. There's no little line here. But if we're looking at the actual boxes, we have the same shading. We have lines. I haven't actually counted the lines. We have the calendar here, though the spacing is a little bit different, and I haven't spent the time analyzing why, but my guess is that it has to do with the number of days in July for this respective screenshots. But I wanted to show this to you along with the one from 2020 to show you that there are not that many changes and point out what those changes are, because if I'm doing a comparison, and it's a lot easier to be able to do a comparison flat on the desk, side by side, versus having to flip back and forth between a screen share and a comparison. So I hope that makes sense getting into everything. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to do kind of a flip through of the two. And when we get to the weekly page, then I will go ahead and pull over the horizontal from 2020. So 2022-2023 Life Planner, 2022-2023 Academic Planner. So obviously they have different covers. That is just, I mean, that's going to happen. This was my own little to-do thing, or not to-do thing, but it's a little snap-in bookmark or snap-in dashboard that I'll pull out. It was just me tracking some stuff. Okay, so front page. I just realized there's going to be a couple of issues because I want to show them side by side. Oh, let me try to zoom out a little bit. You can kind of see the edge of my laptop, but there we go. Okay, a little bit further in. I want you to get as good of a view as possible while also making it as big as possible. Okay, so we have the front page. As you can see, the Life Planner has the vellum. Oh, I should also mention these are both color blends. So it will be as much of an apples to apples comparison as possible because they're both the same theme. Yeah. Okay, so the Life Planner has the vellum, the Academic Planner does not. And then when we go to the front page, there are a couple of interesting changes. The big one being that the Erin Condren logo in the Life Planner is black and white, and in the Academic Planner, it has a color for the little asterisk thing. And by the way, it took an embarrassingly long amount of time for me to realize that that was an asterisk that was just kind of like cut off the ends and made into like a rounded square. Anyway, so here we have the title in, the color blends. And then under this, because this is the Life Planner vertical layout, because there are many of them, this has a subheader. Also, this one says, "This is my life," and it gives you a place for a name, whereas this one gives you a place for your name and your school, which is interesting. But I will point out that while it's not super common, it's also not uncommon for college students to go to multiple schools at the same time. Usually you'll go to a university for some classes and like a community college for others. I had a lot of friends who did that. So, well, not a lot. I had a couple. I technically was dual enrolled, but it was more to get around a couple of like limitations because I transferred. That's a story for another day. Anyway, and then the Academic Planner also has the Proud to Say Made in the USA logo in color, whereas the Life Planner has it in black and white, which I find to be a really interesting difference. I didn't even think that apart from the name and the or the name of the planner and the name school versus where you can put your name here, I didn't realize there were going to be other really small differences. Well, in the vellum. Okay, so maybe there are a lot of differences. But yeah, that did not occur to me. Now I am curious, I wonder if the current Life Planners that are going out, that are being sent out today, also have these in black and white, because I know that Erin Condren has been dealing with some supply chain issues. Not that that would necessarily impact Life Planners quite as much, since they do most, if not all, the production themselves, but it could impact ink, and so maybe they're trying to limit the color ink during the launch when possible to save it. I don't know. I'm just surmising here what the differences could be. It could be a different person was responsible for laying both of these out, and so one person decided to make them black and white and the other one decided to make them color. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons why this could be going on, but it is very interesting to note. Then I'm going to go ahead and flip it, and as you can see, the Life Planner goes into this page where we have our, in this case, color blends theme with our quote, and then you flip and you go into the 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 calendar, whereas the Academic Planner just goes straight into the 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 calendar. And in addition to that, it also has a little color blends border at the top. I'm not sure, if the justification is that's in lieu of the theme quote page, but that's a very interesting stylistic choice to make. I was thinking that all the pages that would be analogous between the two, like, you know, the monthly pages and things like that, would all be pretty much identical. But as we can see, they aren't. And this would be a good argument for a different person, again, having laid it out. Not that, I mean, Erin Condren's a big enough company that is completely possible. It's also small enough that it's possible it was the same person. The other thing is, I know that the customization of the life planners, the horizontal, vertical, hourly, what have you, with stickers and different things tends to be really huge. I don't see as much of that with the academic planner. There could be a few different reasons behind it. First off, you might not have as many people with the academic planner. You might have students who typically don't have as much disposable income, wanting to like go buy a bunch of stickers and stuff like that, and completely like redo the whole thing effectively with stickers, so they're a little bit more free to do creative elements. As I said, it could be because they don't have that spread showing the theme like the life planner does. Or it could be that they designed this one first and it was an afterthought, or they designed this one first and this one was already finalized and they decided to take it off. I don't know. Totally. I mean, there's so much that, there's so many reasons why that could have happened the way it did. But as I'm looking at this, for the most part, this is the same. I've also noticed here, though, can you see that? Oh, whoops. Sorry. There is a little Erin Condren made in the USA, as well as another little thing on that side at the bottom. And the life planner does not have it. Very interesting. These small changes are things that I was not expecting. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed. So the life planner has the yearly goals page, I think is what we typically call it. And then the academic planner is going to go straight into more schooly things. So let me go ahead, since a lot of us are pretty familiar with this page, since it's in a lot of Erin Condren's planners, I just want to be able to show this one full screen for a minute. So we do have our heritage and awareness observations. I do like that they listed this, especially for school. I actually personally would find this very helpful to have a huge list like this in my life planner, but I do also know that my needs for a planner are slightly different than a lot of other people's because I sell stickers on Etsy, and so keeping track of a lot of these different holidays and heritage months and awareness days for different things is very important for me, and so having it so easily accessible would be great. I do a lot of Googling trying to figure out what things are. And then of course we also have the class schedule. This doesn't necessarily make sense to put in a life planner, though the life planner does have some blank pages, and so theoretically someone could put this in. Maybe like someone could sell a big sticker or something to put on top. I'll also mention that with this color blends header, I like the way it was laid out so that you definitely have more of your warmer colors on this side and your cooler colors on this side on the header, but they do merge into each other. So they're distinct, yet cohesive and flow very nicely. That's more of a design tip, or not tip, but a design note from me, but I will definitely point that out. And then this is also another critique I have of the academic planner, but they only have 2 spots for class schedule. I went to a college that had, we were on the quarter system, so we had the fall term, winter term, spring term, and then I usually took summers off, but some people even went during the summer. And I know that there are some high schools that at the high school level it's called trimester system, but fall, winter, spring versus, you know, fall, winter, and winter, spring. So I feel like by only having essentially 2 pages for this class schedule, that could potentially limit a lot of people who have different school schedules. And they have a note page here, so they could easily, if they did 3 of them, for instance, then 1, 2, 3, and then they could either just have this notes page, or they could even add another one. So anyway, that is my thought there. And then we go into the monthly stuff. And with this one, with this yearly goals page, we turn the page. We do have a one-sided note page. And then again, we go into the monthlies. So I also would like to point out that these particular ones start on a different date, but I believe you have a choice about exactly when they start. So originally I was going to look at July because that was kind of the one that I pulled up for the 2022-2023 horizontal, but so we can compare a little bit more apples to apples. Let's go to August here. And then maybe when we look at the weekly page, we'll go back to July. I'm not sure how much this is going to show up on camera because it is rather subtle, and I will admit my lighting is not necessarily the best, but the printing on the academic planner is a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more saturated. Not enough that if I was looking at them not next to each other, I would probably notice. But you can kind of see it in the peach here a little bit better. Like that is showing up on camera a lot better than right here. Again, it's subtle, but today we are looking at those subtle differences. So I get to point that out. They both have the same quote, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Most people probably would not have both a life planner and an academic planner. Maybe some people would, but not that it really matters. I mean, they don't have to come up with 15 different quotes for August for each of their different planners. But I just thought I'd point that out. The tab, oh, sorry. The tab is about the same spot on the page, if you can see there. And side by side, you can definitely see the difference. So this one, the life planner, is, I'm trying to line them up perfectly because we do have an ombre going on. So, having them a little skewed does make a difference. Hello, Coco. Okay. Hopefully with Coco's shadow, you can still see that, but, well, now you can't. Here we go. So this one, not only are the colors not as bright, but this is a little darker, and then it's a little bit lighter and less intense with the peach on this bottom side, whereas the top here starts out with a lighter yellow, and then the peach is more intense. There could be a couple of different reasons for this. My guess is that these were printed on different printers. If you don't do a lot of printing, you probably wouldn't be aware that every printer prints colors a little bit differently. And but if you have like the same model of printer, you don't get this nearly as much, but you can sometimes still get a little bit of variation. This can also be if you buy off-brand ink versus on-brand ink. Not that I think Erin Condren probably switches a ton. Though, I mean, if you buy off-brand ink, then you're typically not quite as loyal to a specific brand of off-brand ink than if you buy on-brand ink. But that can make a difference. It can also make a difference, like, maybe you have one printer that's one model and then one printer that's just a model up or something like that. Or they could still be by the same manufacturer, but the colors are different. There's also these things when you're printing called color profiles, and it's basically how the computer is going to transmit the colors to the printer. And most people just leave it default. Even me, as somebody who makes and produces my own planner stickers, usually leaves it at default. I've only had to mess with it for one sheet of stickers, and I don't even know, this was my old printer, I don't even know if it's going to be an issue with the new one. It's an old sticker that I actually haven't sold, but it had some purple in it, some light purple, and for some reason, without messing with the colors, it printed looking very blue, and I already had either 1 or 2 blues in the design, so I didn't want another. I wanted it to look purple. So that is probably what's going on here, because it does not make logical sense to lay out this page twice. But this is an excellent illustration of how all printers print colors a little bit differently, because we have two life planners obtained within, I mean, definitely within a month and a half of each other by me. I don't know exactly what the time frame was that they were printed, but I obtained them both in a very short period of time, and you can see this being different. Now, one more thing that I will mention. I will mention this. I want to make this clear. I am not accusing Erin Condren of doing this. I am saying I have heard it happen with things. Specifically, PR samples that get sent to people, because this academic planner was sent to me, gifted to me, sent to me for free. I did not buy it, by Erin Condren. This life planner, while Erin Condren did give me a $100 gift card to put towards my purchase for review purposes, and so technically these were both, you know, sponsored / gifted, this, I made the purchase. They gave me the gift card, but I made the purchase through the site like anybody else would. This was not an advanced preview copy. This one was. The reason why I mention that is that I have heard reviews specifically in the beauty sector of YouTube, because remember, I started this channel years and years ago as a beauty channel, so I followed that stuff very closely for quite a while. There are some reports that some brands have either packaged things better or sent what feel like different formulas, or like basically there's somehow been a difference between the PR products that go to the person who's reviewing it than what actually goes to the standard consumer. And as far as packaging goes, that is pretty common to have slightly different packaging, specifically with makeup brands. Erin Condren typically doesn't do different packaging, but I just want to make it clear, I'm not saying this is what happened. This could be normal printer variation. What I am saying is that it is entirely possible that quality control might be a little bit more stringent on preview and press copies, because they want to make their products look as nice as possible, and because not only do all printers print things a little bit differently, but all screens show things a little bit differently. Most people would not have a side-by-side comparison to be able to tell. And again, I'm not mad at them for this. I'm just here to kind of point it out and discuss the reasonings behind it. You can draw your own conclusions about why this happened based on the information that I have given you, but I'm not here to blame everybody. My guess is that it's just normal printer differences. That's my guess, but maybe not. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't tell you. So let's go ahead and go on to the next page, which is our monthly page. And we'll start with this side. Oh, hello, Ackman. I hope you're having a good one. Did I say hello to everybody else? I think I did. Just let me go down the list of everybody else who's posted in the chat. By the way, if you're here live and you haven't already said something in the chat, go ahead and do that, and I will give you a little shout out. If you are watching the replay, leave a comment. Let me know you're here so I can say hi. And also, give this a like, or if you hate it, give it a dislike. Let me know what you think. Okay, so Sharon, Yvonne, Lisa, Sarah, and Ackman. Great. I think that's everybody who's posted in the chat, and hopefully everybody has gotten their shout outs. So this layout, again, looks very similar between the Life Planner and the Academic Planner. We do have, this time, the Life Planner looking a little bit more saturated, but remember on this page, this one looks less saturated, but when we compared them right next to each other, this one was a little darker than this one. So it will be a little bit harder to tell because we don't have color going to the edge of the page. But my guess, my guess is that it's not necessarily as much saturation as it is just how dark it's printed. And again, it is subtle, but at least from my preview, I think you can see the difference there in the way the colors are showing up. So I hope that makes sense. Also, you can see it in the tabs, though on this side, the LifePlanner is lighter than that one. So it's kind of going back and forth, which is very interesting, and again, does make me think it's just a variation in how different printers treat different colors. Because if you've ever loaded ink or toner into a printer, you may know this, but printers don't have a million colors in them. They have a very select number of colors. Typically, you're going to have magenta, yellow, cyan, which is blue, effectively, and then magenta is red, effectively, and then you're going to have black. And then some printers will also have, well, my printer at least has a separate, more saturated black for photo printing, so that's photo black. I know it's kind of confusing, but cyan, magenta, and yellow are the three main ones, and printers get the colors by basically mixing those together as well as mixing the black in. So you not only have the concentration and the pigmentation of those inks that can mix together, but you also have the concentration and pigmentation of that black. And so that's part, if not most of the reason why all printers print things a little bit differently, because it's taking the information that the computer is sending them and basically custom mixing the color based on that. Also, not directly related to this specifically, but since we're talking about printers, I will just add in a little known fact that a lot of modern printers that are color printers will add a little bit of color in when you are printing black and white, or when something black is being printed. It still looks black when you're printing it, but what that actually does is it means that technically if you run out of color, the printer, because it has to put those colors into the black to print black and white, it is lower out of that ink, and so it's essentially a cash grab to get you to buy more ink. In fact, my information's a few years old on this, so I will maybe dial back a little bit because I haven't looked up recently, but I heard a statistic a few years ago that printer ink is one of the most expensive liquids on the face of this earth, because the model that a lot of printer manufacturers use is they sell the printers themselves, or at least I should say, like home printer manufacturers, sell the printers either at cost or at a loss, and they make their money on the ink. So that is why a lot of printer manufacturers are they're sticklers about, like, you have to use our brand of ink, and they'll try to put in security measures so you can't use other brands of ink, you can't refill the cartridges, things like that. And then a lot of times they'll say, oh, the ink's gone, when there's actually ink in there. It's because they are incentivized monetarily to get you to buy as much printer ink as possible. So if you are planning on doing a lot of printing, I highly recommend looking into ink tank printers. I personally have had a few Epson EcoTank printers. They've treated me very well. But there are other brands. I have a couple of other specifications that I have to have in a printer, and Epson's the only one that fulfills those specifications. But all the big printer brands have an ink tank printer. So if you're going to do more than like the occasional printing, highly recommend you look into ink tank printers. They're more expensive up front for the printer, but the ink is significantly cheaper. Okay. Sorry, I know that was a huge tangent. There are a couple things in the chat I really want to go over real fast. So Sharon's saying, yes, it drives me crazy that different brands print the same color differently. Yeah, and unfortunately, there's only so much that you can do to correct for that. What I did in my production of stickers is, when I got my second printer, I got the same brand, same model. Now, there were some other reasons why I got the same model, but even had I gotten one model up, it wouldn't necessarily have been as close. I don't think it's exact, but when I look at them side by side, it's been a while since I've done a side-by-side comparison, but if I remember correctly, it was very hard, if not impossible, to tell the difference. Now, the second printer I got was a refurbished printer, and Epson sent me one that was colorblind the first time around. And by colorblind, I mean the hoses in the printer were mixed up, so where it was supposed to print black, it printed yellow, and where it was supposed to print yellow, it printed black. So that was interesting. And they sent me a replacement. But yeah, now that the refurbished replacement is like actually here, it works great. But as I said, they're both the ET7700 for anybody who's curious. It is an old, outdated model. They have, like, there's a new one, but the number's going to be similar. Just make sure it ends with a 0 and not a 5, because if it ends with a 5, it's like in the same family, but it's not like the updated model of this one specifically. Okay. Oh, and Shakira, I didn't give you your shout out. I'm sorry. And then you also have, I wonder if the variations are more muted iterations like the Harmony Neutral and In Bloom. Maybe. But they're advertising both of these as color blends, so I don't think so. And they're not necessarily consistent in a way that would make me think that this one was supposed to, or one of them was supposed to be muted, because if you look at it here, this one looks like it's more pigmented because it's a little bit darker, whereas on the other page, even though this one's darker, this one looks like it's brighter and more vibrant. So that makes me think it's not intentional. Other than that color difference, though, we also have a little bit of a difference in the stroke weight of the lines, or the line weight here. So in the academic planner, I'm hoping this is picking up on camera, the lines are a lot, not a lot, but they are thinner. Does anyone else see that? I hope you do. And that is probably, like, not necessarily deliberate in the sense that it's like, oh, we want to make this one thinner than that one. Again, it was likely a different person who laid them out, though I would think that they would just use the same file on both and it wouldn't have to be a different person who laid it out. Or maybe they started producing this and then made a change on the back end, and if I were to buy a new LifePlanner, it would be a little bit thinner. Who knows? We're also seeing that the name, the days of the week are a little bit more bold on this one, as well as the numbers. As I'm looking at it, I do not think it is so much a case, at least for the lines, of this ink being darker, because these lines specifically look thinner. But the days of the week looks like, in addition to being more bold, I don't want to say completely bold because I don't think it is, maybe a little bit, but like not entirely. But this ink looks darker, same with the year. Ooh, Ackman makes a very good point. Erin, Condren, and others might have more than one company that prints the planners and then sends the pages back to EC for assembly. So different companies use different printers to print the same page. Very good point. I think that would explain the color differences. That would not explain the line weight differences. I don't think it would. I also remember a few years ago, and I could be completely misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure that when Erin Condren first debuted their new Mohawk paper, they had a promotional video where they talked about how the planners were printed in-house. But now that I'm talking about this, I do remember that when there was the error with the compact vertical where the line on Thursday was missing, that they were saying they were getting another batch printed versus we are printing another batch. I could again be misremembering that, but it's those little subtle ways of explaining things that can make a difference in how you can take those words. It could also be just the way that person talks. There are, of course, going to be some regional as well as country differences and just grammar and how things are put out. For instance, this is, I don't know, maybe not an extreme example, but I'm from Portland, Oregon, West Coast. If someone says, give me a couple minutes, when I think of a couple, let's actually use the exact situation that this came up. This came up when I was a teenager, and my family lives in Portland, Oregon. We were visiting relatives in New York for Christmas. So one of my uncles asked my mom, can you bring me a couple of, present tags because I'm out. And so my mom grabs, I think like 3 or 5, or something like that. And thinking like, oh, he asked for a couple, he wants 2, I'll grab a couple extra. She brings them, and to him, the New York couple is like 5 to 10. And so it was a difference in like just how those terms were used. And there are a lot of things like that. So I don't know if that's, again, specifically what's going on here, because I am trying to analyze this and nitpick into little details. I'm just pointing it out as a possibility. I think there are a couple of other comments I missed. Let's see. Shakira saying, understands what I'm saying about the PR versions. Again, I'm not trying to say that Erin Condren is intentionally trying to send better products. I'm just saying that maybe the quality assurance is a little bit more strict. Because it kind of makes sense that if you're sending something for PR, like, you want to make sure it's on point, whereas there might be slightly more variability allowed in, like, when you're mass producing something versus PR copies are often printed early. And so, you know, they're often a little bit more attention is paid to each one. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at the other side here. We have a lot of the same differences that we already noted. I don't think there's really anything to write home about here. Again, these are pretty much the same layouts. One thing that I was looking at, or am looking at, and it might actually be on different months, but I could see an argument how one version, whether it's like how they put slightly different holidays in the monthly spreads for one versus another. I know in the past, I believe it was the teacher planner, they didn't necessarily print all of the holidays. I'm using the word holiday more generally. You know, holiday observations and things like that. But they didn't print them in, but they had a sheet of stickers so you could put your own in. The academic planner this year did have a list of everything at the front, and so they don't necessarily need to put everything on these pages, but in the past they have had slightly different holidays listed for the different versions. So that was something I was kind of keeping an eye out for. And in fact, let's go ahead and skip to, I don't know, November and see. I'm just looking like real fast to see what the difference is. Yeah, I don't see anything specific. This is more of a like a US centric thing, and I'm not necessarily, I'm not trying to call Erin Condren out for this, but Erin Condren does have an international audience, and they do try to cater, at least in some ways, to that. So I noticed that they marked this, I'm not sure if you can see, fall back daylight savings time. And almost every country has a different daylight savings time. So if you wanted to be a little bit more accurate, you could say US daylight savings time and US election day. Again, that's probably splitting hairs. I'm here to be nitpicky and point out all the things. So I'm also in the US. So for me, it's functionally no different. But I could see if, you know, a kid specifically who has an academic planner in a country other than the US sees some of those things and doesn't realize that daylight savings time can be on a different day, or elections happen on a different day, things like that, I could see them being a little confused. So next, we have our monthly dashboards, which are drastically different. So let's go ahead and start with the Life Planner, because I know a lot of us are fairly familiar with the Life Planner, and I want to go over it first. So the Life Planner has gone through a couple of different permutations of this page, but it's more like small changes and small updates to fit the theme. So on this side, we have a notes page. Some years it's had a border, some years it has not. This year it does not. Notes page, and then on this side, we have the month, and then we have a few different boxes for different things. This one's lined, this one's bulleted, this one's dot grid, this one's blank. I honestly have not come up with a really good use for this. Sometimes I use it to mark different like amounts of sticker sheets that I have to print, specifically for my sticker subscription, but a lot of months I just end up using a sticky note. So I know some people do use it for goals and things like that. As I've mentioned before, I tend to mostly use the weekly pages in my planners, and I do stuff on a bigger level or on a monthly level, either in Google Calendar if it's more of a scheduling thing. So again, I don't tend to use the monthly pages, or in a notebook if it's goals and things like that. I have done that stuff in the past in my planners. Seriously. I'm talking to the cat, not you guys. But in my experience, partially because of my ADHD brain and partially because they are big projects, doing everything in my planner specifically for a month and then having to move it over next month is a little bit of a big deal because I don't always get stuff finished in the month. Again, sometimes it's a big project, sometimes I just, doesn't happen immediately. So that is why I do not tend to personally use this page. So anyway, just pointing that out. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. This is the academic planner, and as you can see, we're just going to deal with Coco. This again is very different. So we have a little bit more than a half a page here. If you look at the functional part of the page, it's maybe 2/3 of the page apart from the header for notes. But you also have goals and events here. And you have your little bullet points, and because they're empty circles, you can kind of, you can use them as check marks, but because they're circles and they are pretty close to bullet points, you don't necessarily have to check them off. And so I kind of like the way they did that. Again, it's one of those really minor design things that actually could make a difference to make the same basic layout a little bit more functional. For instance, goals, make sense to check those off. Events, maybe not so much unless you want to check off that they've happened. But by having them be empty circles, it looks very cohesive between the two sides, even if you're probably going to be checking stuff off on this side. On this side, we have the page for projects and exams. And I think the first time, if I remember correctly, the first time I went through these academic planners, I was thinking that as somebody who does run their own business, this, with very minor modifications, which work wonderfully for my projects, I would basically just take the exams part out. And then I think all I would really have to do is remove the class thing and replace it with something else. So this, again, is really, because it's an academic planner, it's geared towards school. Description, class, details, deadline, important dates. And then again, you have that empty circle for completed. Again, using the same type of check mark / bullet point from over here, over here. And it makes these pages that in a lot of ways are not necessarily balanced as far as the amount of stuff going on. It brings the same elements, the design elements throughout, and really makes them more of a cohesive spread versus had you had, filled in, just bullet points here, or if you've done square checklists on this side and things like that. So, as people who like planners and like to decorate, we are used to looking at things as spreads. But again, I point out the small details, so that's what I'm doing. I hope I am not coming up as being like, I don't know, not silly, but, and I even say that I'm nitpicky, but I hope I'm not stating the obvious, I guess. So next we are going to go ahead and go into the weekly pages, but as I said, I'm actually going to go forward to July for this, just so again we are comparing the same month with the same colors and things like that for the analysis of the comparison. So this one, as I mentioned earlier, but for anybody who might not have been here earlier, no, I'm gonna go a little bit later in the month, again, make this as close to apples as possible. So as I mentioned a little earlier, for anybody who wasn't here or missed it, I do not have a copy of the 2022-2023 horizontal life planner. What I have is the 2020 version, which is very similar to the 2022-2023 version, but I do want to show you the differences between the 2020 version and the 2022-2023 version before I get into showing you this, because there are some differences that, again, I will be ignoring. So I have the screenshot pulled up here. This is taken directly from Erin Condren's website about an hour and a half before starting this stream. So it's what they currently have up on the website. So if you remember what we just looked at, we have the same boxes. with the same borders at the top, same colors, same shading over here. The biggest difference is this top. So on the 2020 version, the month and the year are bigger. There's an asterisk there, and then there's also a little header bar over here that's kaleidoscope because that was the theme that year. But if you ignore this header, the rest of it is very, very, very similar. I haven't like counted all the lines and measured everything, so I won't go so far as to say identical, but it's very, very similar. And I'm doing it this way because, again, the pages are very similar. So I feel like it is fair to do a comparison between the 2020 horizontal and the academic planner. And I think it will be easier to look at it side by side on my desk versus having to flip back and forth between the screenshot and this. And because it's not a very high quality image, especially if you're watching on a phone, you might not be able to tell super well, but I had to blow this up even to get it like this. So printing it out would not have been a great option. So that's all my disclaimers, but this is what is on Erin Condren's website for July 2023 specifically, and we are gonna come back here. Oh, now that I think about it, this is the 2019-2020 edition, not just 2020. Oh, maybe it is? No, this would have been the 2020-2021. I forget what year Kaleidoscope is, but I can't really tell because this is a Franken planner. This year I got, the year this went down, I got the binder inserts for the, I know I did daily, vertical, and horizontal. Maybe I did hourly too, I forget. Yeah, I did hourly too. But I have a sticker shop. That was my excuse. So yeah. And I just realized something. Because this is a binder, I can actually just pull this out. And I'm going to pull out this side. And that will make it a little bit easier to compare. I know it's not quite as high on the desk, but I will not have to take this big binder and push it around. So I'm going to go ahead and flip to this side. Again, these are both in theory, well, I mean, not even theory. These are both the color blends version. Even though they have a horizontal layout, they are styled very, very differently. And for me, as somebody who does oftentimes use their planner as a glorified to-do list, those changes, some of the changes make a huge difference. And I'm actually gonna, I don't want to knock it over because I don't want to have to put the planner back together, but actually I'm going to grab the other page so we can look at both sides. The biggest thing functionally is that the horizontal planner has one horizontal rectangle box, whatever you want to call it, for each day of the week, which means they have to be a little bit more narrow. And then because the week is only 7 days and it's hard to break it up on, something that divides a little bit more nicely into even things, they have a blank box for notes with the calendar here. Whereas in the academic planner, the weekdays get their own spot, and then each of the weekends are here with a smaller space. There's not as much going on. It's essentially this spot and then a little to-do for Saturday and Sunday, versus here you have this area right here, you have one here, and you have one here, very much broken up. A lot more than in the horizontal version. In the horizontal version, each of the boxes, you have a big one that's lined here, and then you have a shaded section over here. No lines, no bullet points, no nothing. This one, you have essentially 3 lined sections, and then this one is already designated as a to-do section with not only the words to do, but those bullet points. And those bullet points, at least for me, are the thing that makes a huge difference, because I have noticed that I do not always feel like decorating my planner every week, but if it's really easy for me to just start making to-do list, bullet pointed lists, it makes me a lot more likely to actually use said planner on a week that I don't necessarily feel like taking the time to make it look all pretty. That's just one of those things for me that actually makes a difference. So this one, the horizontal, which again, as we just saw, is the same in the current 2022-2023 horizontal, also does have these rounded boxes around each of the days. We've been seeing those for several years. Here, we do not have that rounded motif going on everywhere, even though we did have that rounded motif on the, oh, actually we didn't. I was gonna say we had that on the monthly goals page, but we don't because the academic planner has a different layout here. So yeah, we do not have that rounded motif here, whereas we have that throughout several of the pages in the life planners. So there is a huge difference in there how they're pulling some of the design elements into different parts of the planner. Again, at the beginning in the yearly goals pages, if you remember, we had, you know, our 12 boxes that we had the rounded corners on. Again, that rounded motif that has been going through the whole planner for quite a while now. The monthly page this year doesn't have it, but some years they have. I think, if I'm remembering, the Harmony this year does. I don't actually, oh no, I don't have an actual Harmony planner. Let's see, what's this one? This one's in Bloom from last year. So not obviously, but that one didn't have the rounded motif. I'm pretty sure I have the Harmony Neutral Compact Vertical. Let me double check. Yes, I do. Okay. So again, this is an A5 because it's compact vertical, but we're still getting that rounded motif on this page. So they effectively, for the smaller size, just kind of resize. Things are slightly different dimensions, but we don't have that going into the compact vertical as well. This is not about the compact vertical, but since I wanted to bring this because it is the only example of Harmony planner that I currently have. Even though we're mostly comparing color blends, again, it's not a one-to-one comparison in a lot of ways. If I'm remembering correctly, I also brought up specifically the color blends page on the Erin Condren website. Let me double check that real fast, because I just noticed that when oh, never mind. Did I not pull up color blends when I took that screenshot? Oh, bad Tef. Bad Tef. Okay, let me go ahead and pull that up. I think I pulled up the Harmony one accidentally. So let me go ahead and pull up the color blends one. I'm very glad this isn't a screenshot, so it's not as nicely framed. The biggest difference here is that you have the actual color blend in the bar. But since we just looked at Harmony, we can see that it does not. But that, again, is a color blends thing, whereas the academic planner does not have any of the color blends in the actual weekly page. It is very much black and white with only the name of the month being in color. Again, it's hard for me to show side by side, but the style of having the month and the year, you know, in the upper corner, it looks to be pretty similar, if not the same. Again, we did have some changes in line weights and things like that, and slight ink colors, so without seeing the printed version side by side, I cannot point out a lot of differences, but that is pretty much the same. And then we have the color blends part here. Again, we have our lines here, and then we have our shaded section over here. And because it is color blends, we are getting a little bit more of the teal versus the dark navy blue that is typically July's color, which is why what I'm showing you looks a little bit different. I'm glad I caught that, because otherwise people would have been screaming at me in the comments. So going back here, again, it just kind of shows that this one, I mean, the color blends really does not come over to the weekly pages. And I have to say, from what I've heard about people, I think there are a lot of people out there that actually would have liked something that was a little bit more like this as far as the weekly pages goes, where you have color, you have some, you know, some interest going on, in your monthly pages and your dashboards and things like that. And then the weekly page is primarily just black and white, because a lot of people like to put a lot of decoration on their weekly pages, so they want it to be a blank slate. They don't want to have to worry about covering stuff up or things clashing, colors clashing, but then they want the rest of their planner to have a little bit of pizzazz because they don't want to have to necessarily decorate every page. So that is something that is quite important to a lot of people. I kind of already touched on this, but even though these are both horizontal layouts, the fact that this has one big space to write in and then a space with no lines versus this one has two spaces with lines and then one space with lines that's also check marks, also in a lot of ways changes the functionality of how the planner is used. And that's kind of what it is for me. To me, this is like an overwhelming blank slate. What the hell am I going to do with this? Whereas this, like, okay, there's a little bit of structure already here. I can choose what I want these boxes to be. I already know this one's to do. Great, well, let's go. So that is going to be personal preference between actual people, but that is kind of some of that difference. And so that's why me as a non-student, if I had to choose between these two planners, despite the fact that this has a lot of the academic theming and there are some pages that either do not apply to me or I would have to change, I personally would choose the academic version over the horizontal life planner because this works better for me and my brain, even if I like the stylizing of having a little bit more color and things like that in the spread. To me, I can just cover it up with white out. So, or have it show through the sticker. It's not a big deal, but I know for some people it really bothers them because different little things bother different people. So, you know, to be fair to everybody, that is my personal preference. And I wish the Erin Condren horizontal in some ways was a little bit more like this, but that's also a me thing because that is how my brain works. Ooh, we have a comment from Patricia. I use horizontal EC and love it. I really wish they had better options for neutral weeks, but color tabs for the month and dividers. The weekend doesn't work for me in the academic. Very interesting. And that's a very good point in that a lot of people do have really busy weekends for whatever reason. I don't tend to have very busy weekends, but I also run my own business and weekends in a lot of ways tend to be like any other day of the week. So, because mostly I just have to-dos and not a whole bunch of other stuff going on, it doesn't really affect me. But for a lot of people, the week is kind of like, okay, you know, you got to go to work, got to go to school, like, you know, you have to-dos, but like weekends is like where you have all the fun stuff, where you have all the activities. So that's a very good point that even if this part of the layout might work for some people, having the limited space on the weekends may not. I will also point out that there are a lot of non-academic focused planners that do smaller weekends as such. So while this makes a little bit more sense for an academic planner specifically for students, it's not unique to this whatsoever. I think that's pretty much all I can talk about. So again, we are going to go back to the comparison between the actual color blends planners. Again, for anybody who is live and maybe did not see it, this is the color blends vertical because I do not have a current color blends horizontal. I do not have a current year horizontal. That's why I'm having to rely on the old one as well as the screenshots. I just want to explain this so that there's no confusion. That's the one thing with lives is people do kind of duck in and out whenever, so I have to make sure that I'm kind of explaining things as they come up versus versus a video where it's like, well, if you didn't watch it, you didn't watch it. That's kind of your fault. So the last section in the Life Planner is this Notes tab, or I should say the last tab. And you do have a few pages for notes. I have stuff on a couple of them that I don't necessarily want to show, not because I mean, there might be stuff in there I don't want to show, I don't know, but not very many. I think it's like a total of like 8 pages. The academic planner does have a couple note pages, but there is no tab. It just goes into them. And I'm guessing that's because they do assume that students are going to have separate notebooks. I think it would be kind of cool to have more, or at least have an option. Maybe there is an option, they just didn't decide to put that particular option in the one they sent me for PR. But so there are a couple of notes pages here. Pretty much, as far as I can tell, the exact same notes page. I don't even see any difference with the printing. Oh, nope, this one's a little lighter, tad bit lighter, not by much. I don't see any line weight differences though. And then in the academic planner, we just go into this last page and we have one sheet of stickers, exam, test, read, study guide, class, midterm quiz, paper due, study, and vacation, with a blank one in every color. Very pretty. There's a little bit more going on in the back of the Life Planner. So after our notes pages, oh, we do have this list. I'm surprised nobody yelled at me at the beginning of the live. Shows how much I flipped to the back of the Life Planner, but yeah, this is in the Life Planner. I should have known that. Now I do. So we do have this at the back instead of the front, and then in the Life Planner, we also have the Keep in Touch section where you can put names. Sorry, my nose is itching. And then they used to have like phone and email, but now it's just two little dots, presumably because people a lot of times are trading social media handles or links and things like that, and that's just a little bit more universal. I agree personally. I do think it's a little bit more universal. Then in the Life Planner, we have next calendar year at a glance, so January through December 2024. Again, this is a pretty standard page. Note how we have these little things at the bottom that we had at the beginning of the academic planner. So again, this is the end of the Life Planner, and those are at the beginning of the academic planner at the current year at a glance pages. And in this case, it looks like this printing is about the same, but for this one's lighter than that one, which leads me to believe that not everything we're looking at now, I'm thinking about it, is printing differences, because if so, those would not be almost identical. But it is very, as I mentioned, you could have had different people who laid them out and chose slightly different colors and stuff like that. So this spread has stayed pretty standard the past few years. And then we come into this page. Of course, we have our last page. Let me just go ahead and pull this out. It looks like these are pretty much the same. Now, what's interesting here is, to me at least, it looks like the Life Planner this time is more saturated with the color. Interesting how it flip-flops. Whereas this is less saturated, and you can especially see it in the orange. Again, I'm not sure if it's going to pick up, but it looks like there's a little bit more gray in this orange than there is in this orange. This one looks a little bit brighter. But it looks like the page itself is pretty much the same. From what I can tell, I'm not reading everything word. Oh, no. This one has the Erin Condren info in the academic planner down here, and this one does not. But at a glance, it looks like the rest of it is pretty much the same. And then, of course, we also get into the stickers in the Life Planner, which is several sheets of stickers versus the one sheet in the academic planner. So we have these, and then instead of pre-filled boxes, we have one big sheet with the color blend across the whole thing. And I want to compare these because this is kind of interesting that the way they've done this. Let me do the other side, because in the past I've always had the academic planner kind of on this side. I'll do it that way maybe. Okay, so the academic planner has separate specific colors for different things. And if I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure the Life Planner has done their stickers similarly to this in the past, not necessarily with the color blends theme, but just with different solid colors. This one is taking a little bit of a different tack where the whole page is colorblind. So the whole page is printed and the stickers are cut individually. And if you take a sticker from here, it's going to be green versus up here for yellow, so you can still color coordinate things. But the actual page itself looks very different. And because it is more pastel, you don't have to put the white box here for people to write in. Now, I would say that if you do not have a very black ink, I could see some people, especially people with lower visibility, having a harder time seeing what they're writing on here than here where you have the white here, and you do have, for the most part, darker colors with the white text, which makes it a lot more readable. I say for the most part because some of these, specifically kind of these over here, do not have as much contrast. And so while I have no problem reading it, people that do have lower visibility might have a harder time reading it. Luckily, these down here are already a little bit more contrasty. But again, pink and kind of the yellow-orange do tend to be lighter colors, so it probably would help for some people and wouldn't help for others. Of course, when you're talking about physical planners, a lot of it is visual, so you could make an argument that low visibility isn't as much of an issue here as it might be for something else. One of my best friends from college has lower visibility, so that is something that I specifically look out for when I can. I won't pretend like I'm great at it, but it's something that a lot of times I do like to keep in mind. This one is going to have a little bit more of that issue with the low visibility on everything, but as a designer, this just is so beautiful. I love it. I love this. But again, if you're not using a black pen, if you're using a blue pen, you are going to have less of a contrast, which again might cause some visibility problems for people. And there are a lot of people that, have vision impairments, but can still see well enough to use a planner with absolutely no problems whatsoever. Again, some people are colorblind, and there are different degrees of color blindness, but for someone who's like flat out colorblind, okay, that wouldn't be a good example, but there can be two colors that we might see, or I shouldn't assume everybody watching this isn't colorblind, but for me, as far as I'm aware, I'm not colorblind. You might have a green and a purple, and to me, and to a lot of people, they are very distinct colors, but because they're the same tone and value, not values, but they're like, there's the same amount of light and dark in them. Someone who can only see in black and white may not be able to see those distinctions quite as well. It's not as much of an issue here, but again, I'm talking about this, so I might as well bring it up. LifePlanner also has the back pocket, whereas the academic planner does not. We just go to our back cover. And the LifePlanner also comes with the perpetual planner, which I would like to say I recycle, but usually they just stay in the planners perpetually. And they're a perpetual calendar, so maybe that works. And then the cover on this one is a little different, but that's because it's an 𝗬𝗏 cover, so it has a little bit more, or slightly different branding there. And I believe when you're buying interchangeable covers, when you're buying the interchangeable covers, they don't ask if it's going on an academic versus a life planner. They just ask the size. So I would be highly surprised if when you're buying a planner, they didn't just take from like the same stock of covers. So that is our comparison between the Erin Condren horizontal, well, this isn't horizontal, but you know what I mean, horizontal-ish, and academic planners. I also, as you guys may know, was also sent the Star Wars academic planner. Unless we get specific questions about that, I'm not going to pull it out here. From what I remember, there aren't any major layout differences. It's more stylizing and more decorative elements. But I did do a stream, I believe it was at the beginning of June, when right before they were released, right when the embargo was lifted, where I do go through that page by page. So you can definitely check that out there, or of course go to the Erin Condren website if that is something you are interested in. There have been a few things in the chat that I do want to go over. So let me go ahead and go through this. First off, Mandito, hey, how's it going? Okay, Acton, you have some really, you always come up with really interesting stuff to say. So let's see, I'm jumping up a little bit. So I'm pretty sure I already read this, but you have a few different things back to back, and so it looks like it might make more sense to read them back to back. So the first one, and this is the one I think I already read, EC and others might have more than one company that prints their planners and then sends the pages back to Erin Condren to assemble. So that goes back to our topic about how colors print a little bit differently on every printer, and that could explain some of the color differences. Based on a couple of other things that we've seen, I don't think it explains all of them, but it could explain some of them. Ackman then continues, so different companies use different printers to print out the same page. I wouldn't also be surprised if different printing companies have different brands of printers. And so, you know, if one print run goes on one brand and then the next print run goes on the next brand, again, if it's slight enough like this, I wouldn't have noticed it had I not been looking at them literally side by side. I did not think we would be getting into a discussion at all about colors and saturation and printing today. I thought we were just going to be looking at the layout changes and seeing, okay, you know, page by page, which one is going to work better for me, or you specifically, because that was the whole point, is to give you guys a really good idea of what they look like, because I know a lot of people do not have them to compare side by side. And on the website, you can't necessarily compare the layout side by side nearly as easily. So that's what this was about. You also say, Ackman, that there are a lot of reasons printings may not look exactly the same, possibly the age of the paper, nor old paper stock, age of the ink, possibly humidity might affect the paper, etc. Interesting. I actually have, I mean, I know that age can impact paper. Erin Condren does have, like, I don't know if it's their own proprietary paper, but my guess is that since they specifically talk about, like, oh, this is the Erin Condren paper, I would not be surprised if they, like, have it manufactured just for them and then send it to the printers if they have it printed out of house. Again, I thought I remember that they have their own printing facility, but I could be wrong, or maybe they just, like, it's a printer and they kind of, like, quote unquote take over it to print everything, or maybe it was just a PR video, because that was from a few years ago. My point is, I don't think that the paper would probably be all that old. I could be wrong. I don't know the age of the ink. Again, I don't know too much about that, but I would not be surprised. And then I also do not know how humidity specifically impacts printing, so I, again, cannot speak to that. I feel like I need to go research that now, because I mean, it seems like the kind of thing that may have been discussed in my college classes, but I also was only a graphic design major for 1 year, so maybe I just didn't get that far. Let's see. And then, let's see, Yvonne, you had the thing that's saying Erin Condren does the exact opposite with PR, that in every release there seems to be something found in the PR copies that, like, the missing line. To be fair, for the missing line in the A5 compact verticals, that wasn't just the PR copies, that was just an error that was found because of the PR copies. Yeah. But yeah, I will say that the PR copies that go out a lot of times are definitely more prototype copies. And with other releases, it seems like they're not necessarily prototypes, but they are, like, with makeup, since that's kind of the comparison that we're using. Again, okay, let me back up. I have not, when I was doing makeup and beauty stuff on YouTube, I did not get that much PR. But I've seen pictures and videos of big makeup people on YouTube that have gotten PR. And a lot of time companies will put together beautiful custom, like, boxes and packaging for the individual products. Everything has its own little slot and stuff like that. So, like, very elaborate things putting together so that it's like a wonderful opening experience. I think the most, not that this is bad or anything, but 𝕤𝕚𝕝 was the only makeup company that I got, like, PR packages even more than once from. And they actually had really nice boxes that they sent everything in. They were very sturdy, and they just put some of the crinkle paper in there to cushion it. Like, it was a very nice experience, and I absolutely love their boxes. I kept them because they're so nice. And then they put that in like a cardboard box. But like, it was a nice experience, but it wasn't specifically custom for that PR box. I'm talking about not all of the custom PR boxes in the beauty, or not all of the PR boxes in the beauty world are custom, but those was kind of what I was thinking of when I was specifically talking about that. Again, I've also heard about like different formulations, or not necessarily different formulations, but, and I don't remember who did this. I wouldn't be surprised if there are multiple people on YouTube that have done videos like this. I want to say it's Raw Beauty Christie. I could be completely off. Anyway, somebody got on the PR list for a launch, and then they also purchased their own. And I think it was a case, I think they got like a late PR notification or something, and it was after the launch, and they'd already purchased their own stuff. So they had the purchase stuff, and then they also had the PR version. And whoever it was said that, and again, I forget the brand, I forget who said it, but this person reported that the formulation was actually different between the two. So that's kind of what I was speaking to. Whereas I think in the case of the missing line, it was more of like that was missed, or occasionally they'll have like prototype things that are coming out or things like that. And I mean, for all I know, I'm completely mischaracterizing it. I'm talking from my experience of what I've seen and what I've experienced from being an Erin Condren affiliate and getting Erin Condren PR, as well as what I've heard about makeup and beauty PR, besides the small amount of stuff I've gotten from 𝗫𝗏𝗍. By the way, even though I don't really do makeup and beauty here, shout out to 𝗫𝗏𝗍, great company, awesome skincare. If you're looking for skincare and you want, not like you want like something natural and without a lot of, I don't want to necessarily say junk and preservatives, because preservatives are important, but 𝗫𝗏𝗍 is a good line. The only thing I will say is if you need a moisturizer that's very moisturizing, 𝗫𝗏𝗍 is not the place to go, but almost everything else I've tried from them, love it. Out of left field, but you know, figure why not. Patricia, you're saying you're using the horizontal EC and love it. Really wish they had better options for neutral weeks, but oh, we already read that, but with color tabs for months and dividers, the weekend doesn't work for me in the academic. You also say you don't work a normal Monday through Friday, so the weekends are often busy. That is another very good point with these academic planners, and I think I might have also mentioned it when I was doing my initial review, is that not all students are your traditional Monday through Friday students. You get this a lot more in colleges, but you know, sometimes you have people that do have classes on Saturdays, whether they're traditional, you know, students or non-traditional students. Like sometimes there's just happens to be a class that meets on a different day of the week. I don't think I ever had one, but I know earlier in this live I mentioned that, you know, some people will go to like a university for some of their classes and then a community college for other classes, and usually that's done for budget purposes because community colleges do tend to be significantly less expensive than universities, and because community colleges are a little bit, they have that focus on the non-traditional students in addition to the students that do want to be there Monday through Friday. They do tend to have more weekend and more evening options, even though universities tend to have those evening options as well. So you know, having specifically the academic planner set up like that is really more for the traditional college students as well as the high school students who, you know, specifically do that. I also know that some high school seniors and even some juniors will take a class or two at a community college to fulfill some of their credits, either because their high school doesn't offer it or because they're more advanced, things like that. So there's a lot that could be going on there that could impact the usefulness of that particular planner layout. But for me, it's literally things being sectioned out in that checklist that makes all the difference for me. And I don't have enough, like, I honestly, a lot of times when I'm planning and like, I'm trying to figure out how to use up space in a way that doesn't make it look empty. So for me, it's not a big deal to not have that extra space on the weekends. I also do a lot of stuff kind of by the seat of my pants. I don't have a lot of meetings and appointments currently. When I do have them, I do try to keep a lot of them, the work stuff at least during the week. I don't tend to, like the weekend stuff tends to be fun, but especially because of the COVID and the plague. I still am very much like staying at home for the most part. I'm still personally not going out. I've been personally keeping an eye on rates in my area. I am also personally vaccinated, so do with that information what you see it's worth. But my point is, I do not have a lot of social obligations, period, let alone on the weekends. So that's me. Ackman replying to Patricia, if your Saturday and Sunday are together for whatever you do, then a planner that starts on Sunday has Saturday at the end probably would make your weekend difficult planning. Patricia saying that doesn't matter as much as you need the same amount of space for Saturday and Sundays the rest of the week. Okay. Patricia, you do love the academic Star Wars. I wish they did more themed planners for like life planners as well. I understand why they're doing it for academic planners because kids stereotypically get more themed stuff than us adults, which is lame. But like in Japan, you'll see like stuff for the kitchen has Hello Kitty on it, and it's totally meant for adults. I'm like, okay, who does not want a Hello Kitty spoon rest? Well, okay, maybe I don't specifically want, okay, if someone gave me a Hello Kitty spoon rest, I'd probably use it more than the normal one, but I'm not personally a Hello Kitty fan. My point is, having fun, cute stuff in your life as an adult does not make you a child. It makes you like young at heart / I don't know. It just makes you fun. So I think it would be cool if Erin Condren brought more themes into their life planners. I could also see an argument that because they have so many different life planner layouts that they would either have to make it a very limited offering, or they would have to do one for every single one, like horizontal, vertical, hourly, daily duo, stuff like that. And so they might not sell as many overall in that category for the amount of time it took to lay it out, if that makes sense. So, Manito, you're saying that you use horizontal planners. You think the academic horizontal planner is a better layout and easier to decorate. Interesting. Is it because of those little section things that I kind of mentioned? Because, like, as I said, for me, that's part of what makes the difference, that and the checklist being printed in there. But that also happens to be the way I plan and the way my brain works. Ackman saying, since you mentioned colorblind people, my work puts a letter on the color band for people that cannot see the colors, like W for white band, G on the green band, etc. Ooh, very nice, very nice. I have to say, one thing I have been thinking about specifically, and this is not really having to do with these planners, but is there something I can do with my stickers in my shop? Maybe not necessarily to make them more accessible for people that have limited vision or are blind, but because I am a small company that can try things, like, is there something I can do that would help? For instance, I know that my friend from college has mentioned that sometimes it can be hard for her to tell things like shampoo and conditioner apart, especially while she's in the shower, because the bottles are very often very similar if you get them from the same brand specifically. So, and then I've heard the same thing. I mean, she's limited vision, but I know that people who are completely blind have to go completely by touch, and a lot of times packaging does not necessarily have tactile things. So I was thinking, like, maybe even just doing a set of stickers that are different shapes in a water-resistant paper. But then you'd still have to label things, and I don't know if people who are blind or have very impaired vision or very limited vision would have like a braille printer or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to overthink the problem, but I also know that stickers, specifically planner stickers that are very tiny typically by their design, are not very friendly for people with impaired vision. So it's just kind of something that's been floating around in my mind for like the last year. I haven't actually taken any steps. Sharon says, what a great idea, your dad's colorblind. My dad actually is partially colorblind too. I'd like to say that's partially why I thought of it, but it's not. There were very few situations where I've known it, but there are very few situations where it ever impacted anything. Fun story, people who are completely colorblind actually can't get a pilot's license. because they use different color lights on the runway and the tarmac to be able, or I think it's the runway specifically, to note different things. My dad specifically has red-green color confusion. So while he can't see the difference between red and green, which caused some issues there, he could see some of the underlying colors. So even though he couldn't see, I forget exactly what it was because he told me about this years ago, even though he couldn't necessarily see the color of all the lights, he could see enough of the other components in the lights to be able to tell this is one color and this is another color and essentially tell them apart. So he was able to differentiate between them enough to be able to pass his pilot license test. I thought it was very cool. I think that was also like 40 or 50 years ago. I could be completely, I mean, my point is it could have changed, but years and years ago when this happened or when this went down, that's what he told me. Ooh, Sharon, you have some good stuff here. The 𝗚𝗎𝗫 paper recipe is theirs alone, made by Mohawk. Okay. That makes sense. For some reason, I hadn't necessarily kind of put that together that it was made by Mohawk, but like obviously that makes sense. Sorry, I have to sneeze. You guys always come with like really great details and things that I've forgotten or just didn't know in the comments. So thank you for that. Because as you know, a lot of what I'm talking about is like just off the top of my head, what I'm remembering, things like that. And I don't always Google stuff to look for the specific thing because I am trying to, for the most part, keep things moving, keep it entertaining, all that good stuff. But having you guys to either remember different things or search for, you know, details while I'm on the street is very helpful. Patricia, you're saying 𝗚𝗎𝗫 prints in-house as far as you know. Printer breakdowns delayed compact vertical shipments aside from the missing line. Printer breakdowns are annoying. Sharon, you're saying that's what they do for the federal employee badges. Oh, I see. That it's on the, so what you're talking about with the lines was on the badges. That makes a lot of sense. The convention I used to volunteer at did something kind of similar. It was a little bit, it didn't have to have nearly as much security, but there were 3 different types of badges. There was adult, youth, and child. So youth was essentially teenager, and then child. And they had basically, so children at the convention had to have, I forget if they had to have a parent with them or a parent on site. It changed with different conventions, and I forget which one mine was. So, you know, if you, those I think were red badges. So if you saw that color badge and you didn't see an adult around and you went to a convention where adults had to be present, then, you know, then you'd know to investigate. Youths, so the teenagers, they had, I think they had a curfew, and then there was some stuff they weren't allowed to go to. And then you had the adult badges. And then in addition to that, you also had like an ID verification to prove they were over 18 because there were some over 18/adult panels that no one else was allowed to go to, and because people could easily swap badges, they had to have a way to verify that you are actually who you say you were. So they didn't entirely go by the colors, but they also had the word, is my point. They had the words on there in addition to the colors. The idea is that you could tell from afar, and then if you were colorblind or your color vision was impaired for whatever reason, then you could also read it on the badge. Sharon, you're saying, fun fact, Mohawk also makes the plum paper planner paper, but a different recipe that is also only theirs. Ooh, now I want to get one of their planners, and we could like, I mean, it might be weird to do like a video or a stream where I'm feeling paper, but I want to like feel the difference. I mean, obviously different recipes are going to make it feel very different, but I'm curious now. Yeah. Ackman, you're saying to Patricia, you're tempted to buy some of the Star Wars planners, but you don't need another planner, just want to get the covers. Do they not sell the covers separately? That's annoying. Oh, right, because at least the one for the academic planner is not removable. That's annoying. Ooh, Patricia has a great idea. You'd love to see an 𝗬𝗏𝘗 themed planner or the watercolor stripes. Yeah. 𝗚𝗏𝘁 saying Japan has a lot of themed items like binders, mechanical pencils, folders, etc., even ink refills. You can get like Studio Ghibli, Snoopy, Pokemon, etc. Exactly. And here, like, we have some of that stuff specifically for stationery, but it's very much labeled for kids. And I'm like, no, no, I'm in my 30s, and yes, I do consider myself a geek, and I do consider myself a child at heart in a lot of ways. And I have ADHD, which probably, you know, contributes to that. But damn it, I want, like, a cute sponge to wash my dishes with. I want all of the cute planner and stationery stuff, and I don't want to be seen as a kid for using it. Thank you. 𝗚𝗏𝘁, when do we ever not go off topic? Your federal government ID has a chip on it, like a credit card, along with your fingerprints embedded in the chip, along with an 8-digit code. You have to, whoa! I mean, it makes sense to have that much security. I worked for an in-house, so I mentioned I used to work in auto finance, so it was an in-house finance company for an auto manufacturer. At the time that I worked for them, they claimed they were the biggest in the world. I do not know if that's currently true, but yeah. And so anyway, because it was finance, we had people's social security numbers, addresses, all that good stuff. And so we did have to, you know, be fairly secure, and we had all these regulations and shit. But literally to get in the building, it was just like a card and you just fobbed in. And in theory, there was a camera that watched it so that if there wasn't someone specifically there at the security desk, or there was also another entrance that I often used, in theory, they could like catch you letting people in. But I don't know how often that actually had issues, because I also would just see like people bring a guest in. And so, you know, someone could theoretically, you know, just go in with someone, not be authorized and pretend they were a guest. And I don't know. Luckily, most secure things were like scanned into the computer by the time they were in our building, and password protected and stuff like that. But there was original paperwork in some departments still sitting around. But yeah. Patricia, Harry Potter planners. Oh my goodness. I will say Warner Brothers is like strict about licensing for Harry Potter. I will say, if you ever see anything Harry Potter themed on Etsy that you think you might want, buy it. Because Warner Brothers is really strict about taking stuff down, even like fan art and stuff like that, for people that do not have an official license to sell anything Harry Potter related. I had an Etsy friend who makes bookmarks, and she released a quote-unquote Harry Potter themed one. It wasn't using anything copyrighted. It was just kind of like imagery. I think it might have had to do with the Patronus or something like that, but like, you know, it was a misty deer stag or something like that. And Warner Brothers had it taken down because she called it boy wizard themed bookmark or something to that effect. Like, that was their issue, boy wizard. I mean, you could say that there are a ton of boy wizards, but yeah. So anything that anybody's selling on Etsy could be taken down at any moment, and their shop could be shut down. So yeah, buy it ASAP, because you might not get it otherwise. Just a little tip. 𝗚𝗏𝘁 saying you should get Tef some of those erasers as well. Some that look like food, animals, etc. You'll have some, but you'll never use them. I'm not a huge fan of things that look like food. That's something I don't necessarily want to go into. You can draw your own conclusions, at least for now. But like the animals and stuff like that, I don't know. For some reason, I'm not huge on erasers in most cases, but yeah, luckily, I do have access to some of that stuff in my area. There's this Japanese like book and stationery supply store called Kinokuniya. I think I have that's how I always say it. I think I have my emphasis wrong. I think. Anyway, sorry. This is what happens when you take Japanese in high school. But yeah, they have a lot of books, and they also have a lot of really cute stationery there. And so yeah, I could definitely go get some of that if I wanted to, or at least just go look. Ooh, 𝗚𝗏𝘁 does have a Harry Potter planner. I will say, I would not be surprised if, even if it's like technically unlicensed and might be taken down, I would not be surprised, excuse me, if there were some like interchangeable planners on Etsy or other sites just by artists that are Harry Potter themed. Again, you just have to be careful because Warner Brothers like cracks down even more than Disney cracks down on stuff that's unlicensed. Yeah. Ooh, and you have some Harry Potter themed mechanical pencils. Of course, there's also like the officially licensed stuff, and obviously, I'm just talking specifically about Etsy because I sell there and I've talked to sellers and you know all the seller rumors and stuff like that. Sharon, no worries about having to step away. Thank you for blessing me for the sneeze. Okay, so the plum paper is way different than Erin Condren paper. Okay, very, very interesting. I mean, I knew Erin Condren was unique. I've never felt the plum paper, so I can't speak to that specifically. Patricia, you saw a Harry Potter cover on Etsy yesterday. Maybe you should grab it now. Yeah, if you think you want to get it, you probably should. Just, you know, keep in mind that a lot of things on Etsy are not returnable. So, and even when they are returnable, a lot of times sellers will ask you to pay return shipping unless there's something like defective about it. Just, you know, because it's expensive to pay for return shipping and stuff like that. Amazon kind of spoils us a lot because they have like free shipping or free shipping thresholds, which a lot of places do, and then like oftentimes the free returns and stuff like that. Etsy sellers, I mean, often are like me and have their own little like in-home studio or just like a table. And yeah, so they have to be a little bit more strict about returns. I will say there are a lot of Etsy sellers that probably would not accept returns at all, except that in parts of the world you legally have to accept returns unless it's custom. So I haven't looked up the specifics, but yeah. Sharon wants Animaniacs everything. I was never hugely into Animaniacs, but I mean, everybody has their thing that they're into. I'm sure there's some stuff I'm into that you're not, so yay. 𝗚𝗏𝘁, do a search for Harry Potter planner on Amazon and you'll see a whole bunch of them. Yeah. 𝗚𝗏𝘁, 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗧𝗏𝗍. This one is specifically, I know it's 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗃𝗧, and I was thinking it was more of like an emphasis thing. So a lot of times when Americans pronounce a lot of Japanese words, we will put emphasis somewhere often in the middle of the word or something like that. But if you're going off of actual Japanese pronunciation, typically there's no emphasis on any syllable. The best way to approximate that, if you're not used to not putting an emphasis on something, is to put the emphasis on the first syllable. I still suck at it. So I think 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗃𝗧 is, I don't think I was putting emphasis on anything, but I have a hard time sometimes hearing it. So that I'm like 99% sure that I had the right syllables. It was more of an emphasis thing. Now I'm gonna like look though, because I just like, okay. The other thing is that there are a few different 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗏 stores, and it's possible that like maybe one of them has something different. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗃𝗧𝗏. 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗃𝗏𝘁. 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗃𝗧𝗏. If you're saying like it's 𝗀𝗏𝘁𝗃𝗧𝗏, that would be the like mispronounced American thing that I was talking about. So yeah. As I said, I took a couple years of Japanese in high school, and then I took a term or two in college, I think, something like that. I will definitely not call myself an expert, but what I will say is that for the most part, Japanese phonetics are pretty simple. So it's not like English where there are a ton of different exceptions. There are a couple exceptions, but there are fewer and further between, and it's usually one specific exception that you see among a few different things, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Ackman saying, you did get a few Harry Potter themed covers on Etsy. The same seller does not have the same ones anymore. I wonder why. It could be the crackdown. Some Etsy sellers also just either make a certain amount of something, and then once they sell out, they sell out. I wouldn't have been surprised if it's the crackdown. So basically, I don't want to get into the weeds of this, obviously, because I'm not specifically talking about Etsy, but I will say, because this is good to know from a consumer's point of view, that typically the way Etsy handles copyright claims, which is what this sort of thing, Harry Potter and Disney and other things fall under, is Etsy doesn't really want to get involved. They will basically pass messages along. So if the company, Warner Brothers in the case of Harry Potter, decides to do a crackdown, my understanding is that they will identify which listings or which shops are affected to Etsy and then what they want Etsy to do with it. And then Etsy will take said action. So they might just take the item down, they can close your shop, they can do a few different things. And then if the seller wants to say like, oh, this is unfair, then Etsy is kind of like, the seller has to take it up with the person that complained, if that makes sense. So different companies will say they want different things done. And so some people might like lose their shop entirely. Some people might just get a warning. Some people might be told to like take it down. So yeah, that's why I can't say like this is specifically what will happen or this is specifically how long it will be up, because a lot of it depends on how often Warner Brothers or Disney or whatever the company is that owns, the property, is going through and kind of doing those crackdowns and what their policies are regarding them. And by the way, fan art is not exempt. So yeah, just be aware of that. They're like, oh, I drew it, that's exempt. No, because you're drawing a licensed character. And from a copyright point of view, not okay. So yeah, just so you know. Now, I think if it's something that is officially licensed and it's being sold secondhand, this wouldn't really apply to Etsy, but maybe like on eBay or something. I think that's okay. And there's also a little bit of a gray area if you're buying like official Disney licensed fabric per se, or maybe there's like official Harry Potter licensed scrapbook paper that you're then using to like you're using the physical paper to put in a planner cover, pulling it back into planners. That I do not know specifically about. But if they're drawing it or they're printing it and it's not their intellectual property for the character or the property or whatever, get it while you can, because there's a good chance it's going to be taken down soon. Same applies, by the way, to Mickey ears. Again, not planner related, but a lot of people will get Mickey ears when they're going to Disneyland, Disney World, etc. If it's not specific, like even like the ears, because they're like recognizably Mickey ears, can be a little bit of a gray area, but you'll also see like a lot of themed Mickey ears around different characters. Those are like even less of a gray area in the like, it's just a matter of time sort of deal. But yeah, different companies have different thoughts. The sad thing is that I do keyword research and like search research every so often for selling on Etsy, because I want to see what people are searching for and what kind of stickers I should make. And for like every time I've searched for the past few years, Harry Potter stickers like always come up, and I'm just like, oh, don't do anything like that, because it can get you in big hot water. One thing I will say though is like for Disney specifically, it's not a thing for Harry Potter, but for Disney, you could use like the imagery of the Beauty and the Beast story as long as you're not like making it copying Disney and their characters, if that makes sense. So again, bringing it back to planner stickers, you'll often see like sticker kits that have, you know, like Beauty and the Beast themed or something like that. And sometimes you'll see stuff that's obviously Disney, but sometimes you'll see stuff that it may, you know, it might be reminiscent of Disney, but it's not copying Disney. It has an element here or there that kind of calls back to it, but it's not exactly Disney. That could be part of the reason, because they want to avoid that copyright strike. But like just doing like, you know, a rose with, you know, flower, you know, with petals falling down or something like that, that's fine. Yeah. Sharon, plum paper is very smooth. Gel ink doesn't dry quickly on it. Oh, I hate that. Hate that. Like just in general, when you have paper that ink doesn't dry fast on, ugh, hate it. Ackman, you're going to be going to the Japanese stationery store again tomorrow to get more pen refills. Yeah, I should probably go to the Japanese stationery store, but I always like look at all the stationery and I'm like, I really don't need any more stationery as much as I want it, because what happens, like I can only keep so much at my desk before it starts getting to be a mess, and so every so often I like pull stuff out, but then I can't bear to get rid of it, so that anyway, it's a whole cycle. But because it's in a Japanese grocery store and food is consumable, I can usually justify buying Japanese food. Or, I mean, this isn't just Japanese food. They also have like Korean and Chinese and Vietnamese, but it's a focus on Japanese and other East Asian foods, I guess I should say. But yeah, I can usually justify that a lot more easily. Patricia, you're right. The entire English language is irregular. I've heard it's like one of the hardest, if not the hardest. Well, actually, I think Chinese might be the hardest language to learn. I forget. But I know English is one of the hardest languages to learn, both to speak and to read, because it is very weird. Ackman, I've spent way too much money on pens, period. Ooh, you got an advanced potion planner cover on Etsy? That's so cool. Now, here's the thing. I'm not sure if advanced potions just in and of itself would actually be copyright infringement. And if you have that like on a cauldron, technically speaking, Harry Potter has not copyrighted potions. So that's one of those things. But then if the person uses Harry Potter as a keyword or part of the title, that's copyright infringement. And so they might either be asked to take it down or to retitle it, things like that. So you do have, so again, like there's so many things. Usually what I tell people when I'm coaching sellers is stay away from anything involving copyright if you possibly can. Because honestly, like even if you're in the right, if Warner Brothers decides to sue you or take down your Etsy shop, they have better lawyers than you probably do. So whether or not you're in the right, there's a pretty good chance you're gonna lose. So yeah, better to stay away from it. Case in point, I hand drew a sticker that is a Nintendo Switch console, and I'm a little bit afraid to put it up on Etsy because I don't know if that would infringe on copyright. Also, technically any planner sticker that are like icons for like different stores, like you'll see like a lot of like, oh, Target haul icons, or, you know, Amazon haul, or even social media icons. Technically that's copyright infringement, and if the company wants to, they could get you in trouble. Now, if it's a matter of like, oh, I'm going to post this thing on Instagram, I'm going to post this thing on Twitter, I'm going to go to Target, in that case, because we are looking at it from like a planning purpose, and in a lot of ways, you're like, by using that sticker, probably going to spend more money with them or spend more time on their platform, they're probably going to be a little more lenient. But when we're talking about, you know, covers or planners, different things like that, where it is a product or related to a product that is sold by the company or an officially licensed distributor, that's where things get really murky and potentially illegal. Sharon, good night. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I actually do need to go in a couple minutes too. But I do want to mention to you guys that I know I announced that I was going to do the special back to school Erin Condren haul and review tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific. I may have to put that off because as of right before being here, let me take down my phone so I can actually check as of now, but when I checked right before the stream had started, I had not received the package with all the stuff. Apparently they were running a little late, and I do not have a tracking number because that's how PR works typically. So I do not know when it's going to reach me. Hopefully, I mean, it might be sitting on my porch right after I get off stream. I don't always hear the doorbell, so it's possible it's here and I just don't know it. But, and sometimes I just don't ring the doorbell. So yeah, it might be here, but, if it's not here by tomorrow, but it's here by Saturday, then I'll do it on Saturday. I might do it on Sunday if I have it by Sunday. Hopefully it will be here by Monday. So basically, for the back to school collection, there is one item that apparently I'm going to get in the box that's not going to be released for a little bit later, and I am not allowed to show you. So I'm also going to look through the box anyway. My point is, it will not be an honest first reaction, because at the very least I have to go in and pull that item out. I'm probably going to look through it anyway. It is nice for me to have an idea of what it is. That way I can kind of like let things stew in my head for a few hours. It helps me have better things to say and hopefully be more entertaining. But a lot of this, again, is very dependent on when I get the box. Hopefully it will come by tomorrow. Erin Condren usually sends PR by FedEx, and I know they sent it earlier this week. I want to say probably Tuesday-ish. I don't know exactly what date, and again, they did not give me a tracking number. I actually... Okay, so if anyone from Erin Condren is watching this, and this is not allowed to be said, I'm very sorry. I don't think I'm giving away any information. I got an email yesterday from them saying I should be getting the box any day now, that there was a little bit of a delay. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Usually it takes 2 days to reach me, so hopefully even if they did actually go out yesterday, I will get it by tomorrow. But I also do tend to sometimes get stuff later in the day or in the evening. It's possible that I will have to make changes to that particular stream though, so that is what I'm just giving you the heads up on. I do already have that event set up, so you could always click the little bell for notifications if you haven't already. I think when there is a scheduled event, you can also, I think there's a little notify me button that you can click. I don't know if you'll get notified when I make changes, if I have to, but you will at least get a notification when I go live, even if you don't typically get my notifications. Oh, Patricia, good night. I hope you have a good one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. There's also a little bit of talk about other stuff in the chat here. So I'm not sure if I specifically looked at that back to school email. So I don't know specifically if I got it. I can look real fast. I do know that Erin Condren is talking about how they're doing a 4th of July sale, and let me look up exactly what the specifics of that are, because it's not a blanket money off thing. I thought it was going to be, because I got a heads up about that sale ahead of time. I just wasn't allowed to say, but I probably misread it. Okay, so 25% off stickers, desk pads, notebooks, and writing tools. Not planners specifically, but 25% off is not bad. So stickers, desk pads, notepads, and writing tools. If that's something you're interested in, definitely go ahead and check that out. I'm not going to check so that I'm not technically giving anything away if I am right or wrong, but it's possible they will have a bigger and better 4th of July sale closer to 4th of July, which is Monday, which is actually a Monday that I will be streaming. It's either going to be crazy big, a lot of people are going to be able to make it that day, or everybody's going to be busy doing family stuff or stuff with friends for the holiday. Of course, outside the U.S., it's not as much of a concern, but I think even though I do have people outside the U.S., a lot of you guys are in the U.S., and that is a big part of my audience. So just thought I would let you know that yeah, that's not impacting streams. I'm guessing the only holidays that will really impact streams for me are the quote unquote big ones for me, which happen to be like Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe New Year's, maybe not. My birthday might impact a stream if it falls on a normal stream day, but there aren't going to be many days, like especially days like that are like government holidays or something like that in the US that often fall on Mondays, usually are not going to impact me unless I am specifically traveling on that day. But if it's just like a random day off, I think I've mentioned before, but I don't tend to like actively observe those days as far as work days go. Sometimes I work them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I take a random Wednesday off. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling and what my deadlines look like. So, Ackman, you're saying FedEx deliveries can be as late as 8 p.m. for you, according to FedEx. Yeah, they can be pretty late for me too. If I'm remembering correctly, they're usually not for me, but it depends on the routes and what has to be delivered. So it can kind of depend. I do know that with the regular mail and other orders and like seasonal surprise boxes, I often get stuff late. And it's really annoying, both on a content level, but also because I'm like, oh, I'm in Portland. Like, I know it's not like the biggest city by any means in the US, but it's well known. But no, a lot of my mail actually has to go through Washington. And same with FedEx, I'm pretty sure. So a lot of it doesn't come directly into Portland. It comes into Washington, and then they like drive it down. So I think that's why there's a little bit of a delay compared to some areas. So yeah. Yes, Ackman, the back to school items go on sale July 6th. So that is going to be Wednesday next week. And then the 1st of July, which is tomorrow, is the day the embargo for being able to talk about almost everything is up. As I said, there's going to be one item in the box that I'm not allowed to talk about until later. It is not releasing until later, though, because we did see in the little flyer, I think I still have it on my desk, in this little flyer, there were a couple things that were tagged as arriving in August. If I'm remembering correctly, it's not one of these things specifically, but I just wanted to mention that. Yeah. Ooh, they showed 2 sneak peeks in the Erin Condren email about the back to school sale. Well, in that case, I know I said I was going to go, but let me go ahead and pull up that email real fast. Watch it not be real fast because I always talk forever. But that's okay. It's so weird to have to like sit right here at my desk because I moved my camera so that I could do stuff on the table. But now I'm like sideways in my desk and I have to, it's weird. Yep, back to school sneak peek number 1. Okay, well, they're probably going to do others. Maybe, so maybe I should do, if I don't actually get the collection by tomorrow, what I can do is I can do a stream at the same time going over the sneak peeks. So, but let's go ahead and go through this now, since I'm here anyway. And there's still a couple of you guys here. I do not know if this is framed correctly. No, it is not. This is just in my email, by the way. As you can probably tell. There we go. Okay. EC Insider, first look, new back to school collection, fun, functional, joyful organization essentials for everyone, built to last all school year long. Save the date, July 6th. Special discounts for teachers and students, 10% off everything with ID Me verification during our back to school launch week. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that the ID Me verification was for students as well. I thought it was just teachers. Maybe the students part launched later. Okay. New arrivals landing soon. Reposition a weekly whiteboard and notepad. Very cool. Color changing brush pens. We saw this in the flyer. These look so cool. I really hope these are in the PR box. I really do. That'd be so cool. I love it. Star Wars Boba Fett design. Cool. I like that. Again, I've mentioned this. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I love the colors on that though. Like, so cool. And then the Star Wars Weekly Productivity Sticky Notepad set. So. Ooh, pretty. While you're waiting, see what's trending, academic planners, teacher lesson planners, monthly planners. Okay, so now that I've gone down the email, let me go ahead and see. Okay, I was gonna be like, are any of these clickable, or is it gonna go to the website or something like that? But no, it's just gonna blow it up, which I should have known while we were going through it. Ooh, that's an unfortunate color combination. It looks like it's blue with a green on top, and the words are not readable at all. But all of the other ones are pretty darn readable. Ooh, those are so cool. I hope I get them. I'll just buy them if I don't get them, but yeah. Pretty. And then we already blew that one up. So yeah. It's interesting that they don't have, it's just in the email, and they don't have a link back to the website like they've done with the life planners. Ooh, not even that's clickable. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, definitely some good sneak peeks, but not like a ton of stuff to go over. Ah, sorry. Okay. I wanted to look at this. So it looks like it's a section for a little notepad. It looks like there are little circles there for check boxes, and then I can't quite read it, but I'm guessing this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe not. Oh, that says that looks like that's Wednesday, maybe? I don't know. I can't tell. Yeah, if you can tell, let me know, but it doesn't look like the picture's high enough quality for me to be able to tell, even by blowing it up, because it just gets fuzzier and fuzzier. But there is that. Ackman, you're saying you like to get them in store and get them that day and not pay shipping, but is it worth the drive distance when it might even be cheaper to pay shipping? Oh my God, yes. Gas is so expensive right now. It's really frustrating, really frustrating. Luckily, I don't go that many places, but with the kittens, last week I was out of a couple things, and I was a little annoyed. I had to drive over to the Humane Society to get the supplies, and usually it's not a big deal if I have time, and this time I had time. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the gas price. I think the last time I bought gas in Oregon, well, I mean, it's outside of Portland, but it's like in the suburban side of Portland, it's Beaverton. I'm technically personally in Portland, but the area that I'm in is like, it's considered Portland metro area, but it's not considered city of Portland. Like if you buy something from my Etsy shop, the return address will be in Beaverton, because that's the post office that I have my P.O. box at and where I ship orders. So, anyway, what was I saying? Oh, it was good. Oh, I was annoyed that I had to drive out to get stuff, because the Humane Society in good traffic is about a 30-minute drive, but it's not always great traffic. I think my record is between an hour and a half and 2 hours one way, and at that point in time, I had a pregnant cat who was not eating the food I had. So, and she was already skin and bones. So it was kind of urgent to get some food that she would eat, and it was very annoying to have to do that. And that was more of a, this was about, I want to say 9 months to a year ago. So it was a long time. So on that day, it was more of a time issue. I had some coaching appointments that day. And so I was trying to get there and back before the coaching appointments, so that like I wouldn't impact my clients. Luckily, I only had one client that it ended up impacting, and she is a crazy chicken lady in the same way that I'm a crazy cat lady. So I was able to be like, hey, if I'm late, can we push it back a half an hour? And she was like, yeah, we're cool. It was a group coaching technically, but it was like a very small group, and she was the only one that was going to be able to make it that day. So luckily she was very flexible. I was also like, hey, I could do it in the car if you don't mind doing that, because it's like, I'll be stuck in traffic, I won't be able to look at your shop. But a lot of the times with that particular coaching client, we'd been working so long together, I didn't need to look at her shop. But we just pushed it back and it wasn't a big deal. Ackman suggested I look at the back of the flyer. I can't really read it there either, though. Sorry. Yay, flyer. It's going to be weird when I won't have to have this on my desk all the time. Not that I have to have it now. It's just I often end up putting it off to the side and then it comes back to the desk. So, yeah. Speaking of kittens and the Humane Society, by the way, I mentioned earlier that I did bring the kittens back. I actually just filled out the review for them today. It's not required, but it's a little like, oh, you know, tell us about them so we can find the best adopter. I don't even know if they're up for adoption yet, but I have found that it is way harder for me to give them up after I foster if I look at if they're up for adoption or if they've been adopted yet. So I usually don't bother. And when I do get new fosters, I do not know when this will be, but I will definitely show you. I probably will not have bottle babies again for a good long while, at least until I'm like living with someone that we can swap off for the night feedings, because that was rough. But I will get new foster kittens eventually. They'll probably just be already weaned. And I'll definitely show you them, but I need a break. I think I've told myself I'm going to take at least a week or two break, and then after that I'll kind of see how I feel. So it might end up being a couple weeks. It might end up being 5 months. We'll see. But usually I don't go more than like 6 months in between fosters. I've also only been fostering for like a year and a half. So when I say usually, I mean like for the last year and a half. So yeah. Ackman, I should use my Erin Condren magnifying glass. Do they sell one of those yet? I would not be surprised, but I don't have one. I do not have an Erin Condren magnifying glass. This paper, it's also very tiny. So it's the kind of thing that would be very hard for a printer to print clear enough for it even to be readable with a magnifying glass. Just kind of, you know how like pixels work on screens? It's the same thing with printed stuff, except it's dots. So with screens and whatnot, you'll see PPI for pixels per inch, and that's like kind of the resolution, right? For printers, you see DPI, dots per inch. And so the higher DPI, the better quality the print. But you have to get like a really expensive printer after a while to get like higher DPIs. In most cases, it's not worth going above 300 to 600 DPI for printing, just because it's like too small most of the time for the human eye to be able to tell the difference. Now, if you bring magnifying glasses in, that's separate. But yeah, yeah, all of that good stuff. I think we are going to leave it on that. Do keep an eye both on my community tab as well as on the event I have set up for tomorrow, so that you know if we are actually doing a stream tomorrow. Since there wasn't a ton to go through in the sneak peek, if there's not an event tomorrow, or sorry, not if there's not an event tomorrow, if I don't have the box by tomorrow, then I'm not sure if I'll do a stream, but I will definitely, if I have to reschedule it, update that on my event as well as on the community tab. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I want to thank you for being here, for watching, for hanging out, whether you're watching the live or the replay. Please let me know you liked it, or let me know if you don't like it. If you're watching the replay, leave a comment letting me know you're watching so I can say hey and all that good stuff. Also, consider subscribing. I sell stickers on Etsy. If you would like to support me as a creator, then you can take a look in the description box. There is a link to check out my stickers, as well as a coupon code if you'd like a little bit of a discount. And with that, I will see all of you babes next time. Bye!